I never hate my race, but until recently I didn't know history class was jacked completely. Found my new family with the team going free. My old family doesn't understand me, cause I am so pro-white. No coke, no Sprite, I am rolling with the bubbly, gonna be more white. I saw them twist history right before my very eyes. Insurrection Day, it's in the book and it's all lies. But now I am alive and well to tell it. But will generations down the line be able to sell it? I've always been a thinker on the search for both sides, but they label me an outcast and they cannot tell me why. Guess I'm just a black sheep, white boy who doesn't hesitate to make a lot of fucking noise. I'm the black sheep, white boy, and I wouldn't change a thing if I ever had the choice. Cause the red's the color I bleed. Yes, we all do bleed red. I have to protect my family. Why does affirmative action make them not hire me? Even in the countries where I'm the minority. Is my race just that awesome and no other could compete? Is that what the anti-whites are trying to tell me? Why am I always seen as such a threat? To the point they want to strip me down till there's nothing left. Old friends from high school, man, I haven't kept one. But I got a new crew and it's where I belong. Cause if you ain't going free, you ain't rolling with me. And there are even anti-whites in my own family. But I am the one who's comfortable with myself. I try to save them from the hate so wildly raising hell. Cause I'm the black sheep, white boy who doesn't hesitate to make a lot of fucking noise. I'm the black sheep, white boy, and I wouldn't change a thing if I ever had the choice. Cause the
Well, the train
guess up to life to see. I'm just trying to help our people go free. I'm just looking out to see. I'm too blind. I'm just trying to see. Go free. I'm just trying to see. I'm just trying. I'm just trying to help our people go free.
Good evening, America. I'm Jason, and you are watching Jason Goes Political. It's great to have you all here today. We'll have Entropy up running in a moment. You may financially gift over at Entropy as soon as we have it up and running. And you may also financially gift over at Odyssey, which is already up and running, as well as Cash App over the course of the show. If you financially gift $19 or less, I will read your financial gift, comment, or question toward the end of the show to maintain continuity over the course of the show. $20 or more, and I will read it as soon as I see it. You may also financially gift cryptocurrency over nowhyguilt.org, nowhyguilt.org, financial gift tab, and then I will see your contributions there. They'll be read in the subsequent week. Got a great show tonight. As always, is a great show when we are together. Please ask your comments and questions with the tag No White Guilt on any of these platforms, and Lord willing, I'll see them and I will attend to them when I do. We're going to go ahead and jump on over to our first item of the day, which is F around in a mall in America in a white county and find out. That's what ends up happening. Who is Elijah Dickin, armed hero who stopped Indiana mall shooter? The man who shot down the gunman who killed 3 people in a shopping mall near Indianapolis on Sunday has been identified as Elijah Dickin, a 22-year-old from Indiana, Seymour, Indiana. And there is the young hero. Could you imagine? And one of the things also was apparently he was able, with a pistol, to shoot and hit this SOB, this, I'm sure, anti-white, choosing a white mall for his, a predominantly white-populated mall, although I think some non-white people were killed as well. He had to be a good shot, which meant he could not be shooting this firearm for the first time. It would mean that he would have to kind of grow up with firearms, kind of understand that it's a tool of self-defense. It's a tool to feed yourself. It's a tool to keep tyrants in place. They can also be works of art. There are a lot of different dimensions to firearm ownership. And this young man was obviously a crack shot who, with a handgun, was able to kill an anti-white bastard in the mall. And we know that the murderer of these three people who wanted to murder many more obviously was anti-white, or we would be treated to every bit of his social media. And that's not happening. So until we see that social media and all the things he loved and cared about and endorsed and political party and all of this sort of business, until we see all of that, or unless we do, we know that the obvious scenario, the obvious case here is that he is anti-white, and therefore anti-whites across social media now, obviously in the establishment media across the West, but particularly the United States. They're not going to be saying a word. Why won't they be saying a word? Because you learn in the method of Go Free that it contradicts the anti-white narrative, which is what they force us to live under. They control that narrative. It is largely, nearly entirely fiction. They take pieces of reality, manipulate them, fictionalize them, and that's what we're forced to live under. The heroic Good Samaritan of the Greenwood Mall shooting. You mean the heroic young man of the West? Is that what you mean? As his lawyer has dubbed him, is considered responsible for stopping the mass shooter who was armed with 2 rifles, a handgun, and more than 100 rounds of bullets, according to police. This is the kind of thing they're going to be very careful because of, the anti-whites, and they don't like anything interfering with their anti-white narrative and what they want to force on you to believe is the reality of the world, which of course we know is a fiction. It's their narrative fiction. There are, and I want you to do the research for yourself, or you can go out there and find folks who do the research if you question it at all. But there are many claims. There are many claims about every year, far more claims than you would imagine, of people putting an end to a crime, putting an end to a shooting spree, putting an end, preventing all kinds of crime with their firearm on them. They show their firearm or they pull their firearm out. And many of the times and for this staggering number, which again are claimed, and I'm sure CNN would say this is not the case, MSNBC, NBC, Fox News, the rest would say absolutely not, that doesn't happen. But please check it out for yourself. Look at the statistics for yourself, at least until they stop reporting on them. Like I was reading an article the other day about not reporting on test scores. And what a big surprise. What a shock it's going to be for all of these people over the years when my prediction to them came true. And that was, you're relying on all of this statistics, you're relying on all this data. One of these days, they're going to make it illegal to either report the data or to record the data or to share the data. And that's exactly what they're doing across Western civilization. So we had the way, we had the path, we had the journey that should be walked in order to recapture our destiny all along. And now it's time, and many have seen this, to come on over to the method of Go Free and have the success within and without the political structure in the United States and around the world. There are many more times that gun owners pull their weapon and never tell the police, right? You're getting ready to get raped. You're seeing someone about to get raped. You're seeing someone being jumped by 10 people. You're seeing, etc. You're getting ready to get robbed. You pull your gun out. You show your gun. In fact, I will tell you of a personal story. A friend of mine, he was on his way. He was a wonderful gentleman. In fact, I just came from the gym a little while ago, visiting 2 gyms today. Very hot in the second one. Maybe we could talk about that toward the end. I had to get maybe about half naked inside of a gym, but that's just what happens. And this guy, many years ago, wonderful gentleman, when I was a very young man, I had the great fortune of doing a bench press incorrectly. And he came up to me and he said, "Can I tell you something?" And I said, "Sure." He was about, I don't know, maybe late 20s, early 30s when I was a teenager. And I said, "Sure, yeah. What do you want to tell me?" He said, "That looks like shit." I said, "Okay. Well, then can you tell me how to do it?" He said, "Sure, I'll tell you how to do the bench press properly." And he told me what to do, how to do it, etc. And then I said, "Wow, you sound like you're some kind of trainer." He said, "I am. I'm a powerlifting coach." And I said, "Well, I would like to hire you." And he said, "You can't afford me." I guess he could tell by my attire that I was, middle class, poor middle class, working class family. And I said, "Well, why don't you try me?" All those years ago, he was charging $100 an hour. I said, you're right, I cannot afford you. And he said, be here every morning at this time, and you can work out with me and whoever I'm training. And I stuck with them for about 2 years. It was a wonderful time, and he was a great guy. And one of the ways that he was great was that he liked to carry a great big 44 Magnum, and just a great big 44 Magnum. And he was on his way in his jacked up pickup truck. He used to like to go mud bogging, one of these good old boy types, you know, the kind that make the world go round, the kind that put Western civilization at the front of the line, and in particular the United States. And he was in his jacked up truck, and he was going to visit some friends up north somewhere, and he was at a rest stop in New Jersey, and he decided he needed to take a nap. So he pulled in. And in Western civilization, as we build it, you would be able to take a nap anywhere you want. A woman with a child would be able to just take a nap on the side of the road, would be able to take it and find a tree somewhere and take a nap anywhere she might like it. That's how Western civilization should be, how Western civilization was, and how we are going to make it again when we recapture our destiny, as we are in the process of doing so. But he decided to stop in New Jersey, rolled the windows down because it was a sultry 90 plus degrees in New Jersey. He wasn't going to run the motor and waste the gas, too poor to do that. And he went to sleep. Well, he was awakened to some thugs, some anti-white, non-white thugs who were crossing the parking lot. And they yelled out to him some racial slurs about his white race, white MFer and this sort of thing. And he woke up and then looked out the window. And they said, hey, white mother effer, you got some money? You got some whatever else they're asking about might be in the truck that they want to steal from my good friend. And he said, yeah, I got lots of money. And they said, oh, yeah, you can turn it over to us. They're still walking toward him. At that point, he raised the 44 Magnum, which, as you imagine, when you look down the barrel of a 44 Magnum, it looks a lot like a manhole cover looking at you with a bullet that size ready to roll inside. And wouldn't you know it, both of these anti-white, non-white thugs decided to throw their hands up in the air and say, whoa, it's all good. You can continue with your nap. My buddy did not report that incident. Would he have been killed that night? Would he have been carjacked and murdered? Would he have been beaten to within an inch of his life? Would he have been disfigured? Would his whole life have been ruined? Probably so. Would all the people who care about them have had their lives shattered by the animals who were going to harm this person, this hero in Western civilization? Yeah, they would have been able to do whatever they wanted to do, and then gone free. No one would have bothered to look for them. No one would have ever found them. So he did not report this. If he had not had his gun, it would have been the end of his life and the lives of everybody who cares about him in a big way, a big part of their life. There are millions, I submit to you, over the years, many millions of incidents that are not reported by gun owners where they save themselves or they save somebody else because they know how hostile the anti-white regime is to a firearm owner. So I wish my best to this young man, this Dickon young man, and we'll see. Let's see what else it says here. The gunman had fired 24 rounds of ammunition, according, and I heard, just as an aside, I don't know if this is true or not, but the Uvalde police are thinking about crossing state lines to arrest Dickon because he had engaged the shooter far too soon, that he should have waited several hours and allowed him to kill as many people as he wanted. But that's another matter. Probably a joke, but I don't know. Fired 24 rounds of ammunition, according to Greenwood police, before Dickon, who was at the mall with his girlfriend, drew his pistol and shot him dead. The gunman was killed about 2 minutes into the assault. So it was actually under 2 minutes, is what I read elsewhere, that he was able to engage and move toward this shooter. I will say his actions were nothing short of heroic. He engaged the gunman from quite a distance with a handgun, Greenwood Police Chief James Eason said. He was very tactically sound as he moved to close in on the suspect. He was also motioning for people to exit behind him. He has no police training and no military background. Folks, this is just the normal white guy, the normal young white man in America that they should all be like. They should all be riding four-wheelers and dirt bikes and putting up tents, helping old ladies across the street, studying space science, studying medicine, handling firearms, handling crossbows. It is what is natural for men of the West. It is what is natural for Americans. This aberration now that he appears to be is a demonstration of the sickness that anti-whiteism, the Democrats leading the charge, of course, has done to Western civilization. I saw articles saying this rarity that someone would be able to do something with a firearm. Horseshit. I would have been able, as a child, to engage, and millions of other young white men in the scouts, in camping with relatives, and riding quads, and being good old boys, and the rest, trained in firearms, knowing how to use firearms, knowing what they are, would be able to put to death, put in that pine box as quick as possible, 6 foot under, anybody moving to do what is this guy, Saperman, Jonathan Saperman. And I looked up the surname Saperman, and we're gonna have a little fun in a moment. But to be able to put to death somebody like a Saperman the moment he begins executing, murdering innocent people in a mall, wherever that might be. This is what America used to be. This is what, if we're going to be celebrating, you had a lot of people in the white sympathetic sphere. I've got a lot of criticism for them as we 7 minutes and a half toward the bottom of the hour. We're going to be here for about an hour, hour and a half today, and that's it. But we had a lot of people in the white sympathetic sphere, and I had severe criticism for them celebrating a young man who did something extremely foolish, extremely reckless, and has absolutely undermined the totality of his life as a consequence. And I chided these people for this everywhere you looked. And what were they doing? They didn't care at all, one iota, about the young man who traveled many miles and decided he was going to protect a dealership from the property being destroyed, something he wasn't even being paid to do. And that young man went out there, and then these adults, by far and large adults all over the white sympathetic sphere, celebrating that a young white man had gone out and shot people dead, something that he'll have to live with the rest of his life, like this young man is going to have to live with it for the rest of his life. But his situation was not something that he created. His situation, he did not put himself in harm's way. He was having lunch with his girlfriend at the mall. And then he was able to act when necessity called upon him to act. This is the guy that the entire white sympathetic sphere should be putting on their shoulders. This is the young man who saved lives. This is the young man who demonstrated what it means to be Western in Western civilization. And I think that Entropy is up and running now. Everyone should be talking about and celebrating this guy 10 times more than the other young man who put himself into harm's way, were murderers and rapists and child molesters and everything else, pedophiles of all imagination. We're going to be there hunting for white people who weren't anti-white enough to end their lives. And he very well, that kid, could have had his life ended. By these anti-whites in the streets. So I salute this young man. God bless you, brother. And let's see if folks in the white sympathetic sphere care enough about this guy and what he demonstrated. And if it wasn't instead just an endeavor to live vicariously through some young person, because all of these folks in the white sympathetic sphere that celebrated him are busy sitting on their asses, not doing anything whatsoever. And so they want to live vicariously through some young person killing people out in the streets and potentially himself dying and then going to jail and having all manner of horror visited upon him in prison, in jail, that he will have to now live with, and all manner of threat to his life and family's lives that he will have to live with. These people never gave one iota of concern for. This is the guy to celebrate, this Elijah Dickin. Let's turn around and see what I looked up earlier. And we have this very interesting It says here about Saperman. I looked it up online, and it says Saperman literally means usurer or practicer of usury. And the researcher actually wrote, I kid you not. And so there you have it. Saperman ran into Elijah Dicken in his endeavor to commit a mass murder and found himself dead before he could take 2 steps to get back into the bathroom, where the police chief was saying he was retreating to. We have over here, and I will take a look at what you all are saying. I did pop up Entropy, and it is working now. DC Democrats beg for help as border states bus migrants to Biden's backyard. Now, I think this is hilarious to some degree, but where they're busing them is my backyard. I live in Northern Virginia, the once great state right outside of Washington, D.C., and the likelihood that they will keep them in Washington, D.C. is slim, especially as the numbers get too large for them to take care of. I like the idea. I like the idea a lot, and I'll give my thoughts on it in a moment. More than 150 buses traveling from Arizona and Texas have transported nearly 6,000 migrants to the nation's capital over the past 3 months. And Democrats in Washington are complaining that they cannot accommodate the mass releases. Now, these are intruders to the United States because they weren't invited. And that's the proper definition of the word intruder, somebody who is not invited. The operation has collectively cost both border states millions of taxpayer dollars, including $6.8 million in Texas to date. But Republican Governor Greg Abbott said, so what? Who initiated the operation in mid-April, said that moving is having the desired results, getting Washington politicians a little taste of how communities have been inundated under President Joe Biden. I'll go back to what he's saying in a minute. I got to jump in. If I were the governor of Virginia, which who knows, maybe someday I will, if we get enough support for Jason Goes Political and the audience grows and people find it exciting, then maybe this becomes the launching pad for a run for office, and then a run for office and a run for office, and maybe I become governor. And then I take whatever funds necessary in the state of Virginia, and we help Virginia. Virginia helps Texas and Arizona and whoever else are busing them. And we bus these intruders, which is what they are. They weren't invited. Wonderful people, though. We bus them to the states that are wont to vote Democrat. You like Democrat policies, you'll have to live with Democrat outcomes. So I think especially the little states, and I apologize to all my white brothers and sisters in those little states, but Vermont, New Hampshire, states like Maine, even bigger states, Maine, Connecticut, and particularly to the locales where the wealthy Democrats, the wealthy Democrat voters, the wealthy anti-whites live, where they vacation. In fact, as the governor of Virginia, I would buy warehouses in these other states, and then I would fit them out with cots and food and running water and showers, everything. No cages for the intruders, no cages, no cages. No, I would move them up to this area and we would fingerprint them because why? Well, we would say, you may stay in this palatial warehouse for a week or maybe for a month. And we will tell you exactly where to go in the lovely state of New Hampshire or Vermont or Maine or New York or Connecticut or any of these states that are just always voting Democrat. They love Democrat policies and they love how white they remain, with the exception of the cities, of course. I mean, we just saw this joke going around. I don't know if it's supposed to be real, but it is laughable, where it says best aspects of a state and worst aspects of a state. And they talked about Maine, and they said Maine is the best thing about Maine is that it has the lowest crime in the United States. Worst thing about Maine, it's got the least diversity. I think we need to correct that. I think we need to correct that. I think we need to move all these white people, and it's been a phenomenon that we have suffered with in the white sympathetic sphere for far too long. And that is the white people who live furthest from anti-whiteism in the past. I mean, now it's visited in very many ways. But the white people that live the furthest always have no problem voting for policies that continue to destroy Western civilization in other states. States like Virginia, it's a once great state. Many of these intruders are going to be moved from D.C. into an area called Manassas, Virginia. You can look it up. It's not so nice anymore. It used to be a good old boy. You used to be able to drive down through Manassas, and it was all jacked up trucks and motorcycles and good folk. And now this part looks like Tijuana, and this part looks like Vietnam, and this part looks, and all of those places are wonderful. But I'd rather not have them in Virginia. I'd rather have them where those places are originally named. And then if I want to visit, I could do so. But it's a very different place now, not Western civilization anymore. So I think anybody, and then maybe as the governor of Virginia, I would extend this not only to intruders to the United States. Remember, that word just means people who aren't invited, even though they're wonderful as can be. But I would extend this to criminals. I would go to the jails in Virginia and I would say, well, it looks like your sentence is about to complete or nearly you have 5 more years. So it's coming to its end. How would you like to move the hell out of Virginia? How would you like to find yourself a beautiful new home in Maine? How about right now? Because we will use Virginia tax dollars. There's one stipulation, and that is, as well as for the intruders, you come into Virginia and we move you somewhere wonderful like Maine or New Hampshire or something like this. How about some of these beautiful little all-white fishing towns that continue to vote Democrat? I don't have any pity. I don't have no compunction whatsoever for the folks there, the white folks there who continue to vote Democrat and do to this country what they are doing. So if you are from those areas and you say, well, I don't vote Democrat, well, you better, if Jason ends up in office, get ready to move, because I am going to visit upon those beautiful little places, all of these wonderful people from the south of the border and all of these wonderful people who have spent long times in Virginia jails. The stipulation will be you can never come back to Virginia. That will be breaking a law that will put you in jail, maybe minimum of 10 years. Can't even cross the border. Don't come back. If we find you here, minimum of 10 years in our jail, maybe longer. So they'll know I can go anywhere in this country except Virginia. I can go anywhere I want. I can stay up in the Northeast. I can do whatever, but I can't go to Virginia. Can't even take 95 through Virginia. 10 years in prison, automatic. They said they let me out of jail 5 years early. And they said they gave me some money to get started with. And they brought me up to this big warehouse up in Vermont. And it was beautiful. There were cots and there were food and there was just the things they do for us folk. And then they showed me where the welfare office was there in Vermont. And they showed me where I could access all these government resources. They told me where I could find all of it. And then after a month or so, I had to leave the warehouse and I could never come back to the warehouse. And they had my fingerprints, so I knew I couldn't go back. But I would say if I was Governor Kuna, but I don't know, I kind of like King Kuna. We gave me the lordship of Western civilization the other night on Going Free. I kind of like King Kuna. But in the interim, I will take Governor Kuna as a title and on my way to King Kuna. But I would say to Abbott, I would say, sure, bus them on up here. We'll take them from you, and we're going to continue shipping them on up to where these folks live. So I'm gonna find Martha's Vineyard. I'm gonna get a nice big warehouse. I'm gonna put them up at Martha's Vineyard. Maybe they can be in the warehouse at night. Maybe their women and children, if there are any. You don't often see many of those. They can be in the warehouse all day long if they like. But the men, no, they can only be in the warehouse at sleeping hours. The rest of the time in Martha's Vineyard, they will have to loiter. I don't care where they loiter. They just can't be in my warehouse. And Greg Abbott will say, yes, sir, I'll ship them right up to you. We're going to take them, ship them in the nicest buses. We want them to be comfortable the entire way. And then we're going to make sure that the right people get a hold of them. And then I think on the other side of the country, you know, where they, Arizona, New Mexico, if they decide that people start waking up there, they can start shipping them up maybe to Washington State, Oregon. They can start shipping them to these places where these people want these outcomes. Because I got to tell you, I am getting sick and tired of having to suffer Democrat desires, Democrat villainy signaling in Western civilization, what's left of this carcass that's on fire. So I would visit their hell upon them. They think it's a wonderful thing. Well, you're going to have it a wonderful thing in the Catskills, baby. You're going to have it in the Catskills, because I'm buying a warehouse there and we're going to fill it up. We're going to be dumping tens of thousands every month in the Catskills. Oh, with the tax rolls of Virginia voters, I'm going to be able to compete with the wealthy up there, and I'll buy some nice place, some nice warehouses to make this begin, and it'll be a wonderful thing, a transformation. Governor Abbott launched Texas border bus mission back in April to bring President Biden's border crisis to his backyard in Washington, D.C., and to help Texas border communities that are being overrun as the federal government dumps migrants in their towns, Abbott's spokeswoman said in a statement to the Washington Examiner. Now D.C. is experiencing just a fraction. Now, of course, Bowser bow-wowing at the moon every night, howling at the moon every night. She's up there complaining now across the river and saying how this is ridiculous. The people are being tricked. They're just coming up with any pretext for it. It's somehow awful that they're doing this, busing these folks up here because she's having to deal with it. But make no mistake, they'll be sending funds. This is the thing you have to understand. This is 57D chess. I mean, they are going to use your federal tax dollars to pay for these people, whether they're in DC or Vermont. So it's not a matter of who's going to end up paying for it. In the end, the Democrats are going to find a way to use your tax dollars to pay for it, no matter where you are in these United States. So what's the other thing you can do? Well, 30 or so loitering young men, old men, men who might be whistling, men who might be grabbing their crotches when you walk by, 30 or so of them loitering at every 7-Eleven or something. That is a different type of pressure. And you're not just going to be able to say box these people up in a train or something, because that is inhuman. You just simply can't do that to them. And since we will have said, well, in the state of Virginia, you go to jail for 10 years if you come back, they're not just going to be able to ship them right back down to Virginia. And they sure as shit aren't going to be passing a law saying, if you come back, you go to New Hampshire, you'll go to jail for 10 years. No, they won't be doing that. No, what will happen is their Democrat minds will be getting changed real fast. So I would find where these folks live. Oh, make no mistake, with the power of the government in the state of Virginia, I would find out where these Roth and then Shields, where they live in the United States, and anybody else that has the big money, anybody else that decides what's going to happen in the United States and to Western kind, and it has been all focused on inflicting injury on us and destroying, white erasing us from the civilization that we created. I will find their palaces and I will park these people next door. Jump on to our final story, and we will take a quick look. I'll take a quick look at what you all are saying to see if we have any financial gifts that are $20 or higher. So let's go ahead and see. And okay, that's good. That's running. Entropy is up. It does appear to be working. If anybody knows how to get on Entropy, just put a period in the question widget so that I can see that it is indeed working and people are able to access it. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. When was that message? All right. Hello to everybody on Odyssey. Hello to everybody on D Live. Great to see everyone. Let's see what is happening over here on YouTube. Wonderful to see you all. Azumut Clark says no white guilt. Victorian Time Traveler says no white guilt. CCW holders for the win. Amen. Fit and healthy at any age says hello. A big hello to you. Promethean hails. James said mic, but there doesn't seem to be a problem with the mic. Victorian Time Traveler says, I hope he doesn't become an insomniac over this. Yeah, insomnia, you've suffered with it. Yeah, it's terrible. And you heard his attorney and the police chief, I think they were saying, leave the kid alone, leave the young man alone. He is 22. Leave the young man alone and let him recover from this. He is moral. He has values there for human life, even when it's an animal like this bastard that is gunning down innocent people in a mall. And yes, such an individual needs to be put down. Such an individual needs killing, as we say down home. But it's still a human life. You want your population valuing human life, even when the human life that has to be taken is a monster. Because if it doesn't value human life, you don't have a civilization worth living in. So these people who were living vicariously like sick children through that kid, wasn't he a child? It was a teenager, 17 or something. When they were doing that, it was for them. It was like a video game. They didn't give a shit about this young man and what he was going to have to go through for the rest of his life. Those memories. This young man, Dickon, is going to have the same issue. He's going to remember those moments for the rest of his life. He's going to remember when those bullets struck this Saper man, and he's going to remember seeing Saper man move toward the bathroom and then collapse, and he's going to remember knowing that he's dead. And he's going to say to himself, he's going to say to himself 10,000 times over the course of his life, was there any other way? Could I have tried to shoot at his knees? Could I have tried to, he's going to be saying that to himself because he's sounding like he is a good human being, a good, decent person. Trust me, you want somebody as a neighbor who values human life and in a situation like this will be willing to take it to save people. You don't want somebody who's willing to take life, whether it's in an incident like this where it should be taken or not, because that person, for that very reason, as your neighbor, you'll have to worry. Is that guy, is it going to be your life? Is it going to be somebody you care about that he kills next? Who knows? If he doesn't value human life, he doesn't value private property. If he doesn't value human life, he doesn't value dignity. So rape is not beneath such a person. Theft is not beneath such a person. Defamation is not beneath such a person. And there you see these people that attacked me for saying it was despicable to celebrate the 17-year-old. They had no problem slandering me with abject lies about who and what I am and what I do. Once again, Jason is proven right. King Kuna to all those who want to misrepresent me. Let's see. Robert says 44 Magnum, das gut. Yes. It does. It kind of puts it kind of would cut them in half. Had he had to discharge the weapon, they probably would have been cut in half by the 44. Pearl Lady says, I got a call today from a pollster and they asked me how important it was for an elected leader or candidate to vote for undocumented people to have a path to citizenship. Wow. How important is it for you? How important is it for you? And you know what, Pearl Lady? That was probably a poll paid for by Republicans. They probably And none of these polls, you know what, all of these polls, in fact, I'm not going to say every single one, but virtually every single poll today is designed with the intent to influence. It's not passive. It's not really trying to test the pulse. And it's very easy to read in the polls, the way they craft questions and the like, that they are designed to influence you, to make you think everybody else thinks a particular thing. Don't you also? It's a double win for the anti-whites, because they get the outcomes they want on their polls, and they convince you that you're alone in America when it comes to caring about Western civilization and Western kind. So these are just advocacy polls. And I wouldn't doubt whatsoever the Republicans are doing everything they can to celebrate and to erase the border as much as the Democrats, who are actively doing it, because the Republicans sit on their hands when it comes to the border. They do nothing when it comes to the border. I mean, Abbott, I'm not going to say he could do more. He could do a lot more with the ground reserve in Texas. He could do a whole lot more. And I would do a whole lot more if I were in Texas. New Mexico, Arizona, there's a whole lot more they could do. The Republicans there. Bryce says, at a certain point, these invaders need to be executed because they will always attempt to re-enter. Well, there's a way. If I were in the federal government and I wanted to address, and I was able to address, which I would, because I would just dictatorially do whatever I wanted. I would with the support of Western kind and my own police force that we would put into effect, which would have authority over all of the other police forces. What I would do is I would put up big, beautiful signs, very different than Trump. I would put up big, beautiful signs, great, big billboard signs all the way across the border. And those signs would, in every language and in no language, pictorially communicate to those coming to the border that the land beyond is filled with landmines. Do not attempt to cross. You will die. Big, beautiful signs. Big. So the sun will gleam and light them up, and then I will have them lit at night. And the cost will be this much for the United States. Not even a fraction of what it would cost to build a wall that Trump was talking about and never got built. Not even a fraction. All of these, all of the guard that is on the border now has just been reduced to nothing but receivers of these peoples coming across, and then they just pass them on. These new Democrat voters, they just, nearly every one of them, just pass them on so that the Democrats can continue to stack the deck across. It's obvious. We all know that's what they're doing. We all can look at the poll. And what do you have here? You have the Republicans and Fox News and Con Inc. all conspiring. Colluding is the proper word for it, because to collude is to pretend that you are in opposition to someone and you are instead undermining a third body of people or a third person. You instead are tricking them some way with the appearance that you are at odds with the other person, the other entity or entities in the formula. So the Fox News, the conservatives, and the rest, they are busily telling you that these people coming in, look at now they're voting Republican. So don't get nervous about this. What do you think about the Republican Party now? They've been telling you this for your whole life, your parents' whole lives, your grandparents' whole lives. They've been telling the same thing. These Central South Americans, they are conservative by nature. They are, and they're not. They're not. I don't know how they continue to push this talk about a big lie. This idea that Central and South Americans are conservative by nature. In what way? They don't vote. Overwhelmingly, they vote Democrat. So that's overwhelmingly they vote Democrat. They only vote in variation from that norm when there is what they perceive to be a strong man, and it's not a big variation, it's not a big deviation from their normal voting patterns. When they see a strong man, for example, like Donald Trump, they perceive him as a strong man. Then they will deviate a tiny bit from their norm, and they will also deviate when they are looking at one of their own, whom they believe will serve what they're perceived on, when they believe that that person will represent their selfish group interests better than the other group. So, like in Texas, for example, you have this female Republican, and they're more of the Central South Americans are endorsing her and putting faith in her and giving money to her than the Democrat. Why is that? Not because they want Republican policies. Because if that were the case, you would see that everywhere. You would have seen that for your whole life and your parents' lives. No. What they see are two folks saying that I will do more for our community than my competitor. And they're saying, we believe that this person will do more for our community than that person. Is that what you want for America? A bunch of Central South Americans, you Republican voters out there, all of you functionally comatose twits that continue for year after year to vote Republican. And then you'll argue with people like us and say, oh, no, it's okay. It's not okay. It's not going to turn out okay. Is that what you want? Do you want to have a Republican running for national office that is Hispanic, Central South American of some degree, that is then telling you and other potential voters, I will do more for the Hispanic community than anybody else has? Is that what you want? Do you want this to be a debate between Democrats and Republicans? Who will do more for non-whites? And have that just in your face, because it's quietly done that way already. Do you want that to just be in your face? Do you want it to be the Democrats do more for the blacks and the Republicans do more for the Hispanics? And the white people are just left alone in the wilderness to vote for anti-whiteism or not? Is that what you want? That's what these people are coming in and doing. That's what they've never been conservative. Well, Jason, they're good Catholics, or they're good Mormons, or they're good. Okay, so they go to church, and then they also have record numbers in particular acts that we consider worthy of instantaneous execution. They also seem to be overrepresented in particular acts that happening in our community, we instantly execute for. So what good is it that they're going to church? And I don't really give a shit if they go to church and they pray to the Madonna, or they say their Hail Marys, or they walk around with their rosary while they vote Democrat and vote Democrat and vote Democrat, and the country is lost. I really couldn't care less. And every Catholic, every white Catholic out there has to ask themselves that, and Mormon as well, when it comes to these Central and South Americans coming up from South. So many wonderful people. And I have met wonderful folks. But remember, your based friend from south of the border, Central to South America, is a vote to 20 other votes from Central or South America. So you can love him and he can love you, and you can love the country. He can love the country and serve in the military, and that's all wonderful. He's a wonderful human being. But when you're dealing with democracy, you're dealing with the majority. The based Central and South American Catholics and Mormons. And so I would have nice, big, beautiful signs. This is another thing Jason will do while holding office, is big, beautiful signs all the way across. I don't even need fence. I will put up like chain link fence. Probably I would high enough to prevent, like deer or something like this from running across the minefield. I don't want animals of any sort being killed out there. And where there are migratory routes on the ground, that's fine. We can open those up. And it's very easy to police a animal migratory route If there, I don't know if there are, where deer or something or wild horses go back and forth. Who knows? Very easy to police that, as opposed to the whole border. So just put up some chain link fence to keep the deer from jumping in, and then mine the shit out of it. Because you know there's a place on Earth that nobody crosses called the 38th parallel. Everybody wonders, how is it that you just can't stop people from going across a border? You just can't stop people. The Democrats say it all the time. I'll have you know this. If these people coming across the border were 19-1 voting Republican, the Democrats would build a wall so big you would see it from the moon. Rest assured, it would be built yesterday. So there is a border that no one crosses, except when they're working as spies and they have the maps and they can know how to zigzag across the minefield. And that's the 38th parallel in Korea. So you don't need big policing. You don't need a giant budget. You don't need giant walls. You can keep all of our money here, reinvest all of those tax dollars in the taxpayers' lives, rather than welfare schemes and et cetera that people squander to death, and all of this receiving of humanity and all of these people. And by the way, the kind of thing the conservatives, content creators and Republican leaders that they would do at this point is they don't care about you white people. They just care about the non-white people coming from Central and South America. I care about everyone. And the primary group that's under attack that no one is defending is Western kind. These are my people. This is my love. This is where I am. But I also care about everyone. It will benefit Central and South Americans to know no need to leave El Salvador. You're not getting across the land mine. If you want to get if you want to get into the United States, you better head on down to wherever, whatever office there is in your country and apply to become a citizen in the United States, and you can begin the process legally. But I'll tell you what, we're not going to have anybody in. We have too many people unemployed, and the country is in too bad of a shape for founding stock Americans. You're not going to be allowed in. So you're going to have to make El Salvador and these countries better places. And we are happy to serve as the model, Western civilization, for making these places wonderful and as much like Western civilization as possible, so that you want to point your feet right to the soil you are on rather than always to the soil in Western civilization. Because, my friends, that soil, it's not magic. The people are. And you're going to have to do it if you want to see it. No one getting hurt crossing the minefield. King Kuna. Doesn't it have a nice ring to it? King Kuna. And I'm much more like, when it comes to a leader, I'm much more like the statesman of yore. I mean, I will punch you in the mouth. Andrew Jackson, how many duels did he participate in? Can somebody look that up? All you had to do was slightly insult his family, his lineage, his kind of chubby wife, and he would say, all right, we're having a duel. All right, fist fight time. So he was brilliant, like me, and he was a man of the West, like me, willing to throw down. These are not easy things to come by. You get a lot of tough guys out there that are willing to throw down at the drop of a hat. You get smart guys out there, but the two together, not always the same thing. Hard to come by. You kind of see this in Putin a little bit. For as good as we can see Putin, I mean, who really knows what's going on? I mean, maybe he dances ballet at night. I don't know, which is still kind of cool. It just depends on how manly it's done for the male dancer. But did you know that they stuff things down the fronts of their tights? That's another story. But you kind of see this in Putin. So you need somebody that can get on a horse like Putin and can ride through the river like Putin and can have his shirt off like Putin, but is shredded unlike Putin. And King Kuna is the man for the job. And I will be surrounded, my entire office will be surrounded with the best in the white sympathetic or white positive sphere. Of course, Geniuses for null, naturific, lovely porridge. Yeah, he can serve even though he's Australian. I don't give a shit. You think it matters to King Kuna? Pearl Lady says, just some feedback. I love these Jason Goes Political live streams. God bless you. You have great taste. Miss Jess Horst is here. Ladybug is here. Hello, little lady. All right. I screen left. Okay, here we go. My last girlfriend's family was from Mexico. They were probably not people you'd want for neighbors, writes Victorian time traveler. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Makes sense. Archangel says, I went to a Mormon church that had a mestizo speaker. She revealed herself as anti-white and said, quote, we were here before you people got off the boats, close quote. I've heard that kind of garbage at church. I've heard, and I went and checked out the Mormons as well. I went through all denominations and manner of Christianity, virtually, not, don't include like cults or anything out there, but all like the mainstream ones. And I have heard anti-whites, non-whites, anti-white, non-whites speak this way at church or at temple in that case. Archangel goes on to say, no one protested. I was furious. You see, I protest. I protest. I was just talking about this on the phone with Ladybug, that white Westmen, men, women, and children, Westmen means men, women, and children of the West, are so sick with anti-whiteism that we can't even cobble together a thought into sentence form that comes anywhere close to enabling us to protect ourselves, protect our people, protect our projections. This is why the Go Free method is so important, because all of these other vehicles, all religions, all of it has failed against anti-whiteism. It's all been defeated by anti-whiteism. That's why you need the psychological defense for the psychological warfare waged against us. What am I talking about in particular? What did I read it, or did I hear somebody say it the other day that said, when white people, and tell me, folks, if this makes sense to you, and thank you, Fornall, for the $5 financial gift. He says, testing. Thank you, good brother. Thank you for that. And he said, this speaker or writer said, when white people got to Australia, did any of you hearing that find anything askance, find anything wrong with that statement? There was no fucking Australia. Australia was in the white people. Australia's in me. I'm a proud Virginian, born right here in Virginia. Proud Southerner. Australia exists in me. Australia is on a piece of land because Western kind is there and built Australia. White people didn't get to Australia. I've heard it. I've heard white people say this about virtually every Western country. And in the most recent years, since they've been applying anti-whiteism, using these tactics in Europe, even white people in Europe saying it. But I've heard white people say, when white people got to Canada, when white people arrived in America, no, there was no America. There was no Canada. Do you see how if you are not given the concepts to defend yourself, you can't think to defend yourself? That is why the Go Free method works. That is why the Go Free method is needed. That is why it's so important. That's why we've got to be sharing it far and wide as often as we can. When white people got to America, when white people got to Australia, when they got there, huh? I guess that opera house was just waiting there for them. I guess the form of government, I guess the electricity, and then these people will. Hello to Shelly is in the live chat. Great to see you here with us. Another celebrity in the live chat. They'll always move the goalposts. They're kind of like preppers in this way. They'll move the goalposts. Oh, well, you know what I mean. No, you're talking about an established nation, an established country, an order, a projection onto a natural environment. I don't know what you mean. You're confused. You're muddled. You're thinking that this civilization existed and white people just kind of stole it from non-white people. That's sick. There wasn't jack squat. Let's talk about what was actually in these places. And we can be totally honest, too. I've got no problem. I'm not trying to sanitize white people arriving in Australia, for example. There were non-white tribes in Australia waging war on each other. White tribe shows up, wages war. White tribe wins in the end. White tribe builds Western civilization. Anti-whites come along, guilt the white people into saying that they didn't do it and it belongs to everyone. And anything that we have is emblematic of the theft and what just is intrinsic to Western kind. And that is just stealing everything from non-white people everywhere we turn. Absolutely despicable. Somebody with the name literally needs to change their name if they want to have anything written in the live chat. It might be a joke, it might be whatever, but you are not welcome with a name like that. And if you want to know why, stay silent and watch, and you'll come to your senses. And we're pulling for you. She was white Spanish, by the way, not a mestiza. This is Victorian time traveler talking about his family. So it was even a white family from central or south of the border and Central South America, south of the border, that behaved in a way that was objectionable. Archangel says, well, you're new to the church, and yeah, you're right. Says, and especially if you want to stay there, which is, yeah, I was fine with them saying, okay, get out. So he says it takes a lot of courage to speak up when you're new to a church, which I did not have at the moment. I vowed not to tolerate it next time. And you probably weren't empowered with the lexicon and dialectics of Go Free, of the Go Free method. Now you are. So you can have that conversation in church, in temple, and be the moral person in temple, right? Let them go ahead and be immoral in the presence of God. All right. Art Acrobats has come in, thankfully, with some research on one of our heroes, and that's President Jackson. Art Acrobats says that he had more than 100 duels. Now, I don't think that means that they were all with pistols, but a ton were with pistols. Some of them were with knives, I think, and certainly fistfights. Could you imagine? How do they, where do they make men of the West like that anymore? All right, we're going to jump in because we have a $20 financial gift. Everything $20 or over, I will read as soon as I see it. And $20 financial gifts get 07s in the live chat. Thank you, brothers, as we just are passing the top of the hour. And sisters, thank you all very much. And this goes to Marco. And it's not little Marco, phone party Marco from Florida. No, this is the hero Marco. $20 financial gift. And he says with this financial gift, you were right. They are starting to defend groomers. Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that. And thank you much for that financial gift, good brother. Yeah, precisely. They are, I heard about this on Reddit, that Reddit has now made the word groomer something that's punishable. Their terms of service now, and it's like saying anything else that they are now banning according to the metric of anti-whiteism. And so ipso facto, to say that you're not allowed to say groomer, and by the way, you know that I never liked groomer. So, I mean, maybe pedo groomer, That would be, I think that would be a appropriate stand-in for groomer, because why? Our lived experience matters with words. Even though consciously you can say it means something else in this scenario, subconsciously, what you live 90% of your life with, it conveys those good meanings to the word, which is why, to the concept, which is why I affirm nearly nothing was done in the UK to these militaristic anti-white rape gangs. Nothing was done because they were called groomers. And what was happening elsewhere in the UK? Well, you got your dog groomed, your child groomed for church or for school. You've got yourself groomed for your job interview. So your experiences with the word were positive. That's how this happened to our people in the UK. And so they say using groomer is banned, which means ipso facto that it's an endorsement of, in my opinion, an endorsement of pedophilia. You can't shame, you can't mock, you can't ridicule. And I can see the way that they would build this and just couple this onto, or couple this with, say, homosexuality in general. And this is part of the problem of anti-whiteism weaponizing sexuality and people allowing sexuality to be weaponized. They didn't have me, and they didn't have those others in our community who could have come up with Go Free, the Go Free method, to be in their meetings and to say, look, this is how we have to take this on. If there are people out there who are attracted to their own sex, we can't allow these people to be told that Western civilization has to be destroyed because you're attracted to your own sex, and that your identity therefore needs to be composed of what makes you horny. We can't let that happen. We've got to go with arguments at these people to prevent that from happening. So they've weaponized sexuality. How many people who are attracted to their own sex don't have sexuality in a proper place relative to their identity as a Westman? How many people? And how far would anti-whiteism have gone with those communities, homosexuals, for example? How far would anti-whiteism have gone if these folks couldn't be convinced that Western civilization had to be destroyed in the service of their sexuality, and that their sexuality is the substance of their identity, of who and what they are? Smarter people would have prevailed. They just weren't being called upon. They weren't, the bottom line is, if money doesn't put people on top and force it on everyone else, then you are left with essentially democracy. You're left with, what are the masses going to support? And what they're going to support is the lowest common denominator. It's not going to be the most heroic, brightest, etc. man. It's going to be the enfeebled, the people they can identify with, etc. And maybe I've been thinking about this recently too. Maybe this individualistic nature of Western kind makes it more of an issue for us, because you don't even have like this natural magnetism, or at least to the degree that you have in the non-white races of man. They are superior in this sense to the average white person. The average non-white person superior to the average white person, certainly in this sense, on this metric of having this understanding, this natural understanding that my well-being is largely determined by my people's well-being. And so it might mean that white people will require a greater force from above to weld them together, or a greater force from afar. And that's something that I'm not going to get into tonight. We can't, there's too much to that mechanism to discuss here. But the from above makes it is really easy. If you have a governmental force from above, and they can They can kill you and they can throw you in prison, and they say to you, you are one people and you're going to act as one, tyrannically as all hell, they say this. Then white people will do it. White people will obey. But the other method that might be required is from afar, and that's something maybe we can talk about another day. 100 duels. Andrew Jackson. The good girl writes, please don't judge. I totally believe what Jason is doing is needed, being a Christian and believing that white people need to stand together or we will be gone. Exactly. Take the Go Free method into your church. Just ask Yiz how successful it is. She wasn't able to talk with anybody in her church using any other method, and she explored them all, if not them all, then nearly. And she got through to all of them with the Go Free method. Take the Go Free method into church and see what happens. All right, folks, get out your raucous emojis and your 07s for a champion, a man of the West, a name that we have said many times, a path well worn because of his great dignity and honor. No white guilt clips, just financially gifted over on Cash App, $50, 50. God bless you, brother. Wow, $50 from No White Guilt Clips. This is a man to honor and celebrate. He just making all the videos, financially gifting, all of the different clips he makes, promulgating those things the way he promulgates them. The man is a saint and a hero. And he writes with those $50, long live King Kuna. He is also psychic. He knows what's coming. He knows what's on the horizon. Awesome to see you here, brother. God bless you. What is this, Vlad? What is this? The second was a duel in front of opposing armies in lieu of a battle twice. Andrew Jackson? Wow. Oh, for Noel pointing out, they also fought with canes a lot. How'd you like to get hit with a cane? How would you like to get hit with a cane and it draws blood and a deep bruise? Fit and Healthy has asked the question about, and this is where we sometimes run into particular words that can be troublesome, particular names of people that can be troublesome. And I try to clear it up in Born Guilty and in Crucible, where I use those names. Spaniards are white. Spain is a white country, a white Western country. Just like America and other white Western countries, it is increasingly non-white, but Spaniards are white. And there are white people in Central and South America as well. All right. No white guilt clips. What a champ. Thank you all for celebrating this hero. We're going to be getting to our last story in a minute, just making sure that we didn't miss anything. Okay. All $19 and under financial gifts I will read at the very end of the show. Looks like we're okay there. And I'll write over here. So let's jump over to the final story. If I can find the tab, you all can see it behind me. Pence's latest break from Trump highlights GOP division over big lie. This is so ridiculous. I'm so sick of seeing. They're talking about Patriots Day. When the patriot lost his innocence. Remember, everyone needs to call it that. Everyone needs to correct anyone who's not calling it Patriots Day. This is going to be the only way we will own the name. And then what will happen is what? If we, as we're doing with everything else here, if we work the name into societal use, then the reporters, anti-white reporters, will have to recognize it when they talk about these items. In a dramatic midterm split screen, former President Donald Trump, and by the way, Donald Trump is busily giving up people at turning his back on people. So, I mean, you know, he's like any he's like a lot of guys these days, a lot of politicians these days. I mean, he says he wasn't a politician, but he's a politician. And he's got some good, some bad, and right now, real bad, turning his back on people. From President Donald Trump and his former Vice President, Mike Pence, the traitor, I believe, in my opinion, will hold dueling campaign events this weekend in Arizona as Trump seeks revenge in the battleground he narrowly lost to President Joe Biden. What do you mean? Joe Biden won everything. In fact, I think he also won the presidency in Belize and maybe Nicaragua and maybe a few countries that don't exist anymore. When he won the presidency in the United States, he won also in these other countries. I mean, let's get it right here. Let's get the historical record accurate. Okay, and a state that served as ground zero to perpetuate his big lie. They have some pretty remarkable things going on in the investigation in several states, including this one. And you can't talk about them because the Democrats run everything. The people who are Democrats, who vote Democrat, they're anti-whites, their ideology is anti-whiteism. They run YouTube, they run Twitter, they run all these. By the way, excuse me, you have this. Sorry, just looking at something over here. You have Twitter being called on to also ban any criticism of pedophiles. So it won't be long before here on YouTube, and you'll know when I believe that it's already taken hold on YouTube, because we won't say after that point pedo groomer or anything like that, because it will be made part of the terms of service, and you can't. And these things, I was sent a clip of Fuentes, and I agree wholeheartedly with, where he mentions a short clip. He talks about the conservatives and typical Republican types, not conservative, good conservative people, or good people who vote Republican, patriots that vote Republican, but you're just your typical Mayberry moron, functionally comatose imbecile. They'll make these arguments that what happens next? What happens next? That the Democrats do next, that the anti-whites do next. That is what will be horrible. No, what now? Everything now is horrible. Everything now needs to be cleansed. Everything now needs to be undermined. Everything now is sickness. Everything now is reprobate. The Republican Party agrees, and you know, a vast majority as a consequence of conservatives and Republican voters who are following Con Inc., they have agreed with almost all of anti-whiteism. It's just the most extreme stuff that they'll push back against. No, all anti-whiteism has to go. Every bit of it. Burn to the ground, metaphorically, burn to the ground. All aspects of anti-whiteism. So they'll say, just imagine in another 10 years, they'll be showing videos of adult and child sex on regular television. They will. They will if we do not recapture our destiny. But as for now, saying that it is unacceptable to slander pedophiles is a bridge too far. And we've gone across thousands of bridges too far already. What you need is a new leadership. What you need is for all these functionally comatose Mayberry morons to stop supporting people like Pence, the traitor, in my opinion. So what I'm going to recommend is that when they have their competing rallies, is that if anybody's going to go to the Pence rally, go to the Pence rally to humiliate these Republicans, to call them out for being anti-white. You can make placards, be creative. Maybe in the future, what I'll do is we'll offer sums of money for people who can get up in front of these politicians, get questions to them at their rallies, at their town halls, these sorts of things, to get up in front of them with questions that force them to say that they don't care about white people. They don't care about a Western civilization. They don't associate Western civilization with white people. Your purpose here, and this is how we reclaim or we take the position of those who are in opposition of the Democrats. Remember, we're not taking over the Republican Party. That can't be done. Remember when James Alsop, with his giant channel, and said to everybody, hey, I joined the little Republican group in my town, and they immediately made me leader because they're all old, they're all senescent, they're all wizened and dried up, desiccated old farts. And when I came in there, I was just this young guy, and they're like, wow, there's somebody young? Put him in charge. And so he then recommended to everybody, hey, we should just take over the Republican Party. I cannot tell you how many times I have heard people suggest this over 3 decades, seen people try and seen them fail over and over again. It's a tired record. And so I said, no, nobody do that. What Alsop is saying is wrong. It doesn't work. It's not going to work for him. It's all going to fail. And then I was relentlessly attacked by retarduses in the hundreds. Retarduses came out of the woodwork to attack me in the hundreds. Well, he's look at how big his channel is compared to yours. Well, look, I don't give up how big his channel is compared to mine. He's wrong. I'm right. The Republican Party will not let you take it over, ever. They have an immunity system that will make your head spin off your shoulders. You cannot take over the Republican Party. And what happened? Jason was right. Proven right again. Nobody came back. Those hundreds that came to insult me and tell me how wrong I was and how right Alsop was, none of them came back to apologize. I don't know how many of them came back because they're too fucking stupid. The bottom line is, and I don't want to say this about everybody, but look, if you invest belief in someone and you tell somebody else to piss off, they're wrong, and the person you've invested your belief in ends up being the wrong one, you need to look at yourself and say, how am I evaluating people that I got this soaked up? What is going wrong in me that I got this soaked up? Then if you've got class or character, you go back to the other guy and you say, wow, I'm sorry, you were actually right. I'm going to listen to what you have to say now. And then see, because apparently my ability to interpret what is right or wrong or smart or awkward or stupid or backward is totally broken and a retardist version of how the mechanism in the brain should work. So I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to do less talking and more listening. None of those people did that. No. Alsop went out there and he got, he went to a bigger meeting and they celebrated him at the bigger meeting. And he said, yeah, this is really working. And he had these scripted things that he was able to deliver in a way that hundreds of thousands of people subscribed to. They wanted to hear more of that. Good for him. And more power to him and his young family. But he was wrong. And then what happened? The Republicans, just like I said, as soon as they got a whiff that he cared about white people, he was kicked out of that leadership position fast. That chair was pulled out from underneath of his ass, and he found himself sitting outside their office with nothing to do. Just like I said what happened. So what do we do then? We have to assume the posture that we are the opposition to the Democrats. We are those who oppose anti-whiteism. We assume that posture. And then when it comes to others who are acting like they are the rightful opposition to the Democrats, when they get out there and they assume that posture, we go out there and we shame them intelligently with the objective of revealing to their voters that they are the sham opposition. They are the sham opposition. We can't start another party It's going to be creative how this is done. Don't worry about how it's done. Don't worry about how it's done. You go back to doing things in the world. When it comes to things you're good at, you go do those things. Don't worry about how this will be done. We need to shame these people to convince their voters, Republican voters, that these guys and ladies are sham. They're counterfeit. They're not actually standing up to the Democrats. And a record is not good enough. A record of failing against the Democrats is not good enough, because people have memories like gerbils or worse. I mean, many of these people would be outdone on IQ tests by gerbils. Let's just face it. So it needs to be done regularly, consistently. You're not going to go out there to make a name for yourself, although you might if you're really effective. We will certainly celebrate you here. But you need to get in front of these people and in front of their audiences. And so videos can be made, and those videos can be circulated on social media of you putting the politician on the spot and demonstrating to his or her voters, the Republican voters and independent voters and constitutionalist voters, that this person doesn't care about white people. You need them to pin them not caring about white people. Pin them on that, and white voters, enough of them, will not vote. And when enough white people don't vote for Republicans, Republicans start losing office again and again. What does that do to potential Republican candidates? When they want to serve their selfish interests, when they want to get their asses into a seat to try to keep it warm for the next couple decades and do nothing but lose to the Democrats, they're going to have to articulate concern for Western kind, for white America, for the founding stock of America. Get a politician to say that America wasn't founded by and for white people. Get a politician to say that America was created for a multiracial, all of these Republican, a multiracial population, for the world. Get them to say that America was created for the world. Republicans have already accepted 90% of anti-whiteism. You just look into anti-whiteism in their playbook, pick out something that you know that white voters are going to find troublesome. There's one thing, so many white voters, Republican voters, they say to themselves, I'm going to vote for this Republican because he's not going to immediately flush me as a white person down the toilet. He or she is not going to immediately victimize me. Convince those voters that they will, and they are, and they won't get the vote. As the Republican Party deteriorates, as the Republican Party begins to change, as there are more politicians who are stepping up as Republicans and saying, yeah, America was founded by white men, and they created it for their posterity. I am concerned about Western kind. I am concerned about white people. Get a politician in place. Can you say white people? Can you actually say that you care about white people without having to preface that with, but you care about all people, or without having to follow it with, you care about all people? You would be able to say you care about Jews and add nothing else. You'd be able to say that you care about Latinos or Hispanics or whatever you want to call them, and not add anything else to it, not add any window dressing to it. So let's see you say you care about white people. The more politicians that stand up, that because they want to win election and because we are going to take 10% of their vote away by convincing that electorate, or 5%, it might be that close for them, 5% of the electorate away from them, because you've convinced them this guy or woman doesn't care about white people. And this can be done. You could also go to their offices when their office is open. They're having an open office and they're having people in, and you can go and ask, put people on the spot, put their staff members on the spot. Go to the office of congressmen, senators, House members. Go to their office, meet with the secretary, sit down with the representative that you're going to sit down with. I have some questions for the congressman. What does he think about white people? I'm videotaping this. What does he feel about white people? Does he care about white people? Will he say, and then watch as that person is unable to say he cares about white people. Watch as that person says he cares about all people. Then you take that video, you could bring it to me. You could put it out there yourself. You could say, look, They don't care about white people. That's why they're not going to do anything. That's why as this term comes, you're going to see them intentionally lose to more of anti-whiteism because they don't give a shit about Western kind. They don't give a shit about the founding stock. That's how you turn off enough of their vote. Doesn't have to be a lot. 5%, 10% of their voters, and they don't get elected again. As that deteriorates, as more Republicans stand up to say, yeah, I care about people running under the Republican banner, maybe somebody like me, the Republican Party will wage war on itself. That is how you have an opportunity to take over the opposition to the Democrats. The Democrats and Republicans have sewn up a two-party system in the United States. You can forget about everything else. Forget about it. Everything else is a waste of time. I just explained to you how you instigate and create. Has anybody else done this for you? Spelled it out this clearly? How you instigate a civil war within the Republican Party, not guns and bullets, obviously, you know what I'm saying. A civil war within the Republican Party for the group that represents the opposition to the Democrats. I'm not even, there's nothing else. There's nothing else. There's no other way to do that politically. So you're not going to do it with a vote for your particular Republican. That's why we say no, voting and violence won't do it. You're not going to recapture our destiny with voting and violence. You're not going to, and in this context, you're not going to be able to just vote for, although I would suggest you vote for whoever is running against the person that Pence, who I think, in my opinion, Pence is a woman hating, at least a woman of the West, hating homosexual. In my opinion, that's what Pence is. That's why he's able to say this, be so cold and stilted around his wife and around women in general. That's why he says, I'll never go to a dinner where a woman's present and my wife isn't present. No, that is somebody who hates women and really doesn't have any physical interest in his wife. You can see it all over. So, and that doesn't make him a bad, but it does make him a liar, right? Does it? Him being attracted to men in this particular equation is not the issue. Him being a liar and he's a good Christian, that's the issue in this particular equation. And then all of this fronting about I'm such a good man, I'm totally obedient to my woman and to my wife. I guess he probably wouldn't even say his woman, to his wife and master. Maybe that's how we should say it. If you're going to vote, as I said before, you treat voting like using the bathroom. I mean, you got to do it. So vote for the opposition to whoever Pence is backing, but don't expect that to change things. What will change things is you going to the office of the person maybe you vote for after they win, or to the office of the person who Pence backed after they win, and you show up and you put the staff on the spot, demonstrate that they don't care about white people, and then share that with the world. Share it with the world. That is how we're going to bring down the faux opposition to the Democrat Party and anti-whiteism, their infernal anti-white ideology. In his statement, Pence called Robson, quote, the best choice for Arizona's future and candidate to, quote, promote conservative values, which are really just anti-white values today, mirroring language from the Republican governor, who is term limited to run again, supporting Robson one day after early voting started. He called Robson the real conservative in the race. And that's what will happen with me. Make no mistake. When I run for office, the Republicans will come out, and if it's going to be close, and if it matters, somebody like Pence will roll up and he'll say, you've got to vote for the real conservative here. And that you're right, I'm not a conservative. I'm a firebrand. I am a patriot. I am a statesman. I am a revolutionary. I am the counter-revolutionary. I'm here to take down the anti-white revolution that is destroying America. in all of Western civilization. So you're right. I'm not a conservative. In fact, I'm done with them. I'm done with conservative and Republican leadership. It's time that we had something much hotter and something much colder as well. Let me see what you all are saying, and we'll get ready to get out of here. Had a fabulous, went a little long as always, but that's just my won't because of my stamina. Let me see what you all are saying. Looks like we're blank over here. Good, we didn't miss anybody. And we will jump on over on Entropy. And we have the great Mrs. Jess Horse, ladies and gentlemen. She says, with $10 financial gift, working. Thank you. I guess what you're saying is that not that you're working, but trust me, she's always working. She has 9 kids. But that the Entropy is working. So thank you so very much for helping me out there with that $10 financial gift. We also have the great Promethean Promulgation with $10 as well. God bless you, brother. Thank you so much for being who you are. He says, I'll be releasing a rubric for how much I'll pay for one of these rewards on Twitter. I'm not rich, so it's limited to the first. Hopefully, rich people step up and fund more activism bounties. Yeah, I like that. Activism bounties. Maybe I should go ahead and set an activism bounty right now. That's awesome. Promethean Promulgation made that up. An activist. Ambrielle is here. Great to see you, sister. Haven't seen you in a while. Dr. Dinger says, happy white well-being. Indeed. All right. An activism bounty. Let's see. Let me pick. What should we do? When is this coming up? When is this rally? Why don't we, maybe we'll do this. For anyone who can get to the candidate here that Pence is backing, Karen Taylor Robson. For anybody who can get to this woman with a question or questions, and you got to videotape this, either her or an official representative. So best is in person. And you're going to be polite, but you're going to be forceful. And you're going to get to them and you're going to, in so many words with questions, get them to admit that they don't care about white people. If they can't say white people, that the candidate cares about white people and is going to be serving the interests of white people, beautiful. That would be magnificent. If you're out there, you want to write something, think about it all day, come up with some ideas. Maybe you come back in the live chat, you run it by some folks, you come back in a thread, you say, do you think this would work to get it? If you could do that, you get a video. I'm not a rich guy either. We need to get, but I mean, this $100 I will pay to anybody who can get that on video of Karen Taylor Robson or an official representative of Karen Taylor Robson, endorsed by Mike the Trader Pence. Anybody who can get to them, that person, one of those people, and get her or the representative to say, no, not going to worry. If they keep saying, no, we're only going to care about everybody. So does that mean you're going to care about white? Can you not say white people, that you're going to care about white people? I want to hear you say it. Why can't you say that you're going to care about white people? I mean, you could be respectful and forceful. And, telling them no prefacing it, no following it up, no framing it as everybody. Let's hear you say that you care about white people. You care about the interests of white people. You care about the interests of white people as a group. You get that on video, and you got $100 out of my pocket. That is the first activism bounty that I am putting out there. I would love to see that. All right. Quick check over here, and then I'll look back at YouTube. Okay. Didn't miss anybody there. Hello to everybody on D Live and Odyssey as well. Swivel around and see what the good folks are saying. Hello to everybody. I see a bunch of hedgehogs. Does that mean that the young lady is in the live chat still? All right. Rory Herbert is here. Paul Revere, great to see you. Unmapped Insights, Jilly, Private Life, Nemo. Art Acrobat says, are you drinking anti-white tears? Rory says, please don't be aghast. Some of us in the chat are not as young and healthy as you. Well, that's fine. Did I say? What did I say? Maybe you're talking about being in office. Is that what you want in office? I just don't get it. I mean, you all can fill me in. Kevin is here. Janice is here. Waylon Smithers is here. Machiavelli Sucks is here. Corbin is here. Do you all not? I mean, this drives me nuts. This endless voting for these sewing circle males, I should say. It drives me nuts that somebody who is revolutionary in their speech, somebody who is really pissed off, can't get the least bit of attention. And I'm not talking about the Republicans support, like the Republican establishment. Of course, the Republican establishment isn't going to support somebody like me, right? But what is the deal? What has happened with our race that so many males and females, I guess, and it's funny because when I see them, I see them all as like Aunt B on that Andy Griffith show from Mayberry. They're all male or female. It's just like a mildly overweight, soft-spoken, high-pitched voice Aunt B, who is just, she's ready. I don't know. She's ready to take in the stray dog and just give it a place in her basement to live or whatever it might be. And so what appeals to her is what keeps getting elected. It's just the strangest thing when it comes to Republican Party. If our people were sick and tired, we're truly sick and tired of this, you know, the kind of guys that the Republican Party puts out there, there wouldn't be any women. Let's be serious. There wouldn't be any women in office. Even the few that are there now. To me, that says that our people are only able to vote for somebody who has a little bit more anger than drying paint if they're a female. That's the only way they can do it. So it's like they kind of, it's okay for them. It makes it okay in their own mind. And well, yeah, she's a little out there, but it's a woman. So I'm going to put a woman in. You know, and of course all the talk right now is that, you know, Trump might run as vice president to South Dakota governor for president. Wouldn't that be sad? My God. How pathetic has our people become? How did like John Wayne used to be somebody that people watched on TV? How did we have any of these heroes? And now you have all of these sewing circle males and females, the only ones who can win office. Really just disgusting. And it disgusts me. I find it all very contemptible. Victorian Time Traveler says, it's Rory. Tell Rory that you should be fit and healthy at any age, like our brother says. Ambriel says her favorite actor is John Wayne. I wish he was real. Clint Eastwood. In some of the movies. But they're never... they're manly in a way, but you can't really be a man of a group of people without the element of being able to go to glory for that people, right? So if that's like a secret or it doesn't exist for you, then you're not a full man. I mean, you can imitate a bunch of the semblances of it, a bunch of the markers of it. But ultimately, if I don't know about John Wayne, I haven't seen many of those shows or movies but at any point did he say, like, I'm a man of the West, I'm a white man, and if anybody tries to harm the white race, I'm gonna burn them down. And after that, we treat everybody the same, we treat etc. I don't know if he ever said that. But that you can't exist as a man. Your duty as a man, it's like you're talking about these puzzle pieces of male and female, and a female has a zone where her natural instincts work magic, beautiful. Outside of that zone, they are pathological and they destroy Western civilization. The man's zone of operation is the defense of the people. If you take that out, you can't be a man. That was genetically, that's your job. Genetically, you have to be ready to strive for glory, and you might die in that process. But that sacrifice is so the people, that biospirit, can continue. So you can't be a man. You can't be, I mean, you're like a nothing. It's like you don't exist. It's like you don't exist at all. If you can't stand up for your people, you don't exist at all. And there are layers to that. And the very first layer, of course, is your biospirit. You're not born with a nationality. It's given to you. You're not born even with a god or a religion. That's given to you. You're not born with a political party. It can be given, but you usually choose it, right? You're born with one thing, and it's your biospirit. You have to be loyal to that to the end of days. And that does not mean that you have to harm anybody else from any other biospirit. It doesn't mean that you have, quite the contrary. Quite the contrary, because I never have any problem with non-white people, with the non-white people that stay around me, just like the white people that stay around, draw the best out of every group. They know Jason cares about Western kind. What's being done to his people? What's being done to his people is grotesque. That's what good people of all races are going to be able to say. So if you have a non-white friend that or white friend who would get upset over your concern for what you were born with and as, they were never a friend from the start. Could you imagine having a friend and they want you to be like tolerant of their likes and music, but they can't be tolerant of your love of your people? Nuts. Of your anger over the victimization of our people. Anyhow, so I would like to see somebody get out to this office of this Karen Robson or whatever her name is, or with one of her staffers, one of her representatives, and get them to say, get smart about this. How would you don't go and talk about Israel for the love of God. Do not do that. You're not turning off their voters by getting them to say that they're going to support Israel. You want to turn off their voters, 5 to 10% of their voters, white voters. You want to turn them off. And some of their non-white voters, they're good non-white people that would otherwise be voting for them. I think they might think twice if they're going to vote for somebody who doesn't care about their own people. Seriously. If I lived in another country, say I lived in Brazil, or I lived in Chile or whatever, and I was going to vote. There was a politician. I thought this guy's got some good views, and I think it'd be good for crime. I think it'd be good for whatever. And then somebody asks him, this would never happen down there, and they ask him, well, what about your own people's interests? And he's like, no, my people's interests don't matter. I would think twice. I would think something's mentally screwed up with this SOB. Something's not right. He's going to get into office and he's just going to be a shyster. How could your people not matter to you? And that's not self-serving. Really think about being in that scenario. You can do that with you can be any race and then do that with any other race. Something's not right about the person who would behave that way. You expect, if they're healthy, yes, they're going to stand up for their people. That they're being victimized. Of course. The interests of their people are going to matter. So either their interests of their people matter and they're lying to you because they're really just going to wildly enrich their people, which you do see in some Central South American countries when you have all these different divisions among the different tribes. But in the United States, that's not happening for the white race. Nobody's picking up the phone and calling poor Jason. Jason, you're white? We're going to hook you up. Never did that happen at an interview. Never did I get a call back. Received your resume, saw the 3.98, saw all the accolades, saw all the awards at all of the other jobs you've ever worked at. Talked to some of the other employees. They can't believe how amazing you are. But you know what? When I saw that you were white, you were in. That never happened. All right. Was there anything else we wanted to mention or cover before we wrap up the show tonight? Alan over there on D Live, is that what it is? Alan? Alien? What is it? Mankind, I think is what the other word is. As a dancing chicken. That's what the Republicans are, a bunch of dancing chickens. Bunch of losers. But we can set this straight. Yeah, get out there, get them to say that they are not concerned about the interests of white people, the interests of white Arizonans, whatever it is. That's the state, I guess so. Get them to say that, and you'll get $100 from me. The activism bounty is out there. And with that, my friends, I will bid you a adieu. Donning Armor is here, says, I dig the crimson shirt. Thank you, good brother. It's not late enough as we approach the 9 o'clock hour to go to bed. But nonetheless, sweet dreams, America.